Hi, thank you for all of you who braved this cold, wet, windy week. These are student videos, most of them. I missed a couple from the week ending 2/3/19. Have a good day.
Habits are formed with repetition. Spaced repetition works best, doing something over and over and over again for a period of time, taking a break, doing it again over and over and over again. Maybe 5, 10, 15 reps, doing it correctly, taking a day off, doing it again the next day, or taking an hour off, or 5 minutes off. Lots and lots of spaced repetition. One trainer of runners was asked, how many miles do you have to run to be able to compete in a marathon? And he said hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, but you don't do it the weekend before the marathon. And that's exactly what we want to do here in golf. We want to habituate the motion. So what we have here are two swings. Same golfer, within moments of each other. She's going to do her rehearsal swing or her warm-up swing, and then she's going to step up and try to hit the ball. Now, I said that correctly because the rehearsal swing is a swing, and then when you step up to the ball, most of us start thinking about hitting the ball rather than executing that perfect rehearsal swing. It would be like a singer rehearsing and then trying to go up and do a performance instead of just singing like they've been trained to sing and they've practiced swing and sing and they rehearse the song. So I've locked these two swings together. They're both in about the same spot on the takeaway. It's pretty obvious which one's the practice swing. It's the one on the left, the rehearsal swing. The one on the right's the impact swing. Let's go in slow motion, and you're going to see a lot of similarity. And some of it's not good, but we're going to see where it breaks down. Takeaways, maybe it's a little slower on the, we'll stop here. Notice we're getting still. This isn't good. We got way too much arm fold of the right arm. People think they need to keep their left arm straight, but your left arm is connected to your right arm at the hands. So if the right arm didn't bend as much, then the left arm won't bend as much. Now you can see that on both of them she's doing that. She's folding them up pretty tight. Now on the practice rehearsal swing, she went quite a bit further, didn't she? Now we're going to continue the swing in slow motion. We're going to stop right about at impact. Now she's at impact at the rehearsal swing. At the ball swing, there's something a little different. What do you see? Well, what I see is a movement of the hips. The right shoulder is much lower than the left shoulder. The arms are a little straighter. The left elbow is more down instead of pointing out towards the target on the practice swing. The hit swing looks a little more tense to me. It doesn't look as relaxed. And I definitely don't see any movement of the legs towards the target. I'm just going to advance it frame by frame, nice and easy, if I can. Now here what we see is a lifting on the right side. Look at the lift. Now they're both in about the same position. Notice the big difference. Let's start with the knee. The right knee has moved. The right knee has moved. That's a big difference, right? The chest has moved considerably more. Look at the two elbow positions. Big difference there. Then we look at the hands. We've started rotating the hands on the practice swing, but the right hand is still under the club on the real swing. As we continue on through, full rotation of the practice swing hand, a lot of movement of the right knee, a lot of rotation of the hips, nothing moving on the left side, on the hit side, except maybe the head is up a little bit. And then right on through to the finish where you can see a lot of head movement on the ball impact side. Look at the extension she's getting on the other side. What's moving her head now, you can see is her shoulders moving her head, but she's lifted completely up here. Look at that. The shoulder's not touching her head at all. Right on through to a finish. The finishes are similar, except look at the ball side. It didn't release as much. That's a sign of tension. So what we need to do is lots and lots and lots of swings without a golf ball. and then step up and try to swing as if there's no golf ball. Swing, it's like the old saying, dance like there's nobody watching. Swing like there's not a golf ball. At a minimum, there should be 5 slow, easy, comfortable swings without a golf ball for every time you go to hit the golf ball on the range. And then during the week when you're not on the range, 10, 15, 20, 30 swings a day, 2 or 3 times a day, nice and relaxed, just learning the motion. It's the motion of the swing that matters. Impact will happen because we have good hand-eye coordination. Tension doesn't help that. You can see a much better swing on the practice swing. I drew in 2 lines here. One is the shaft plane, that's the angle you set up on, and the other one is the real forward tilt. Now the spine is not anywhere near the tilt of the red line. So what he's doing is he's hunching his back to get over a little bit. Now the reason you do that is because you're not bending at the hips, you're bending at the waist. If he was bending at his hips, you would see more of an angle like this on his hip line instead of as level as it is. So we'll get him to get his butt up a little bit, a little more flex in those long legs, and I think he'll be in a little more comfortable position so he doesn't have to have his chin tucked into his chest looking down at the golf ball, have his chin up a little bit. So let's take this swing again in slow motion. I think we're pretty close to the beginning of his swing. A little bit of lifting going on there, but notice he's staying right on the blue line. Then he hits the natural position to get up. We're going to stop it right there. He's in a pretty good position here. I would like to see the club shaft a little more parallel to the blue line. And as big as he is, I'd like to see his hands get a little further away from his body so he's got a little bit more of an elliptical swing. He's loaded into the back leg pretty well. He's in a pretty good position. Now he's going to start down. Notice the club handle is going down and the head staying behind. Now he's going to approach a position in here that's really good. Notice as he comes in here, the club shaft is staying parallel to the trail arm. Can you see that? It's not out here on the lead arm. That's in a really good position right there. He's pulled up and out of it a little bit, but if you look at the modern golf swing, we're clearing our way for the hips a lot in the 2-plane swing. So we end up really in what's called a 1-plane impact position, which is the club shaft and the arm on a straight line. That's the single-plane swing setup. So right now, the 2-plane swingers are moving into the single-plane setup at impact. That can be tough timing. You see, he made good contact with the ground. Nice ball launch right on the target line that he said he was going for. Nice high launch. Now, notice he's not using a lot of lower body. Well, he's made the decision that with his upper body strength, that he doesn't need the extra distance. What he needs is more control. And so for a lot of golfers, having a more balanced, solid, stationary lower body from the hips down is a more direction-oriented swing. And I agree with him, especially here in Florida. And he lives on a par 3 course or an executive course. He doesn't need a lot of power, probably overpowers the course as it is. So sometimes we build the horse to fit the course. And in this case, I like the fact that he's going to go for accuracy. And I think if we go back to that impact position, you can see he's facing the ball at impact position. The knees, the shoulders, the chest, the eyes, the arms are right there looking down. Very classic single-plane impact position. You see this month's Golf Digest has a great picture of one of the great golfers exactly in that position. Maybe not quite lifted as much because he has his butt out further than this man does. But still, I like the single-plane finish and right on through to a nice relaxed finish. Single-plane impact, I'm sorry. This golfer came to me because she was a little frustrated that she wasn't playing as well as she used to. And I think what we discovered here working together, and we showed her the video early on, is that she has a tendency to lift the club off the ground rather than swing it back, and that puts her out of position. So let's go ahead and watch this in slow motion. Now this is a golfer that wastes no time at all in pulling the trigger. You can see that right away. She just set up. You can see she's up, lifting that club up, getting herself into an uncomfortable position, and again, getting that rollover of lead hand where it's rolled over instead of being square. We want the back of the hand straight with the forearm. She didn't know she was doing that. I don't think she ever did that before. That's also putting her right elbow in the wrong position. But she stood up completely out of her stance at this point right here. Now we're going to continue this down, 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 down. She's got to dive back down. She's coming way over the top. Makes pretty good contact, but she's frustrated because the ball's always going to the right. Well, it's got to go to the right if the swing is to the left. Equal and opposite. Notice how open the club face is here. So she can't square the club face up to her feet. You can see right here, her target, based on the line she's setting on, is over this way. About there. So you can see with the club face that open and the swing even left of her target line, the ball has to go to the right and even curve a little more right. Very frustrating. So what we did is we flattened out her left hand a little bit and got her to get into a little more square setup. What happens to most amateur golfers when they start hitting the ball to the right, they start aiming more and more left. Pretty soon they're hitting the ball really to the right and very weakly. We need to make sure that our setup is correct, parallel left of the target line, and where she said she thought she was going was out here towards this tree. And the ball did kind of go that way if we back it up a little bit. She did try to get that way, but it can't be strong and weak if we're hitting a glancing blow. So we work on her setup a little bit so she's not coming down and across the ball like you can see there, so she can swing to the target. And if she was swinging to the target, you know the club wouldn't be moving in the angle it's moving now. Now we've had a few single plane swingers today that we've talked about on the down the line view. This is a two-plane setup. You can see the arms are hanging vertically, straight down, almost straight down, just under his chin, under his mouth. That's a good position. And the club shaft is bisecting at about his belt buckle. That's a traditional two-plane swing. I'd like to see him get a little of that rounding of the back go away. You can see we've got, as he comes up here, it rounds like this. That's putting a lot of strain on the back. I'd like to see that go away a little bit. Let's just put a circle around his head. See how nice and steady his head stays. Oops, that's not going to work, is it? Let's try that again. A nice little circle around the head. That's good, right there. Nice circle around the head. And let's play this swing in slow motion. What we're going to look for is, does the club go back to about the waist height and then up onto the arm plane, and then back down the arm plane, back to the golf shaft plane, and right on through with a good drive of the right knee, right hip towards the target. So we want to know that we're getting a good drive through the ball with our lower body. There's another golfer that seems to be taking a little time. One last look at the target. I like that. Notice he didn't lift his head when he did that. He just turned and focused on where am I swinging. Swing to the target. Back focused on the golf ball. I don't think most golfers are aware of how much time they spend over the ball sometimes. And I didn't start this video until he was set. So this isn't anything about taking your address stance. This is just standing there. The body at motion keeps in motion. The body at rest tends to stay at rest. Now we went up the swing plane, but now he's over it. There's where we see the problem, why he's not making good solid contact. Let's back this up a little bit. Where he's fine is here. We want the club head to stay outside the hands. He did that fine. Then he comes up, he's getting in a pretty good position. But from this point now, he needs to drop the hands straight down the blue line. His head hasn't moved. There's no reason he shouldn't be making good contact, except that he's coming out and away from his body too far. So the club head now is coming across and much higher than it was at setup. So he's going to catch the ball on the bottom of the club and not make good contact. So we're going to work hard on teaching him to, from this position up where he's up here, he's going to drop down and through the ball, and then eventually rotate around all the way to the finish. Here's another one of our single plane setups. Let's take a look at the swing in slow motion and see how he's doing. He has been battling getting towards the front side of his body on the forward swing. He ends up staying on the back side. So we'll pay special attention to that on this nice slow motion swing. Okay. A little bit of a waggle there, that's okay. And another waggle. That's a sign of nervousness, uncertainty. I like to get set, maybe one little waggle and go. I don't want to spend a lot of time over the ball generating fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Pull the trigger a little sooner. Now we see him go back. Hands are on the plane line. Club's a little upright, not bad, a little over the top. But there you see it right there. Look at the lead foot. The lead foot is pivoting, the trail foot isn't. There is no weight transfer, no momentum forward, a huge lack of power. We call that the equal and opposite force, where he's throwing a lot of forward motion on the club head with his hands, so his body's having to absorb that and move backward. Now, again, true to a single plane golf setup, it's going to start out on a pretty good line, but because he didn't get forward, he wasn't able to rotate the club through impact. We're going to work really hard on making sure that lead foot stays planted on the ground. It came all the way off the ground. You can see it moving right there, back and forth. Tippy-tap, tippy-tap. We got to get rid of that. That's got to go away, and we're going to work really hard on ensuring that he does. Not he does, that the movement does. You hear me talk a lot about the single plane setup. This is another example of it. I'm not sure this golfer was doing that intentionally, but that's where he was comfortable, so we're not going to mess with it because it's actually a good setup. It actually lets him start in the position that he wants to finish in. The key to the single plane swing is to keep the club head and the hands on the yellow line, or the single plane, up and down. So we're going to watch the takeaway. Not bad, see it staying on the line. Now he starts the lifting motion. Gets that club too upright. We want the shaft pointing back down to the target line. What that's going to produce now, and the other thing, we'll blow this up a little bit. I want you to look at the back of the hand here. Notice how he's rolled that hand over so much. That's not an efficient use of the hands. We need the hands to be flat. We need the lead wrist to be flat. Cupped is a little bit better than rolled over like that. So we're going to work a little on that in the future. Now his club is pretty upright. Let's see if he lowers that club head on the way down. No, he still keeps it up. Now he's back in position, not bad. Comes right on through. Now, why is the ball going off to the right, we may ask ourselves. Well, again, let's blow this up a little bit and take a look at the impact position and notice where the tee is in relationship to the golf club. The golf club's toe is crossing the tee. So what that's going to do is make the ball go off to the right. In the single plane swing, we still have to hit the ball in the center. Now, look at the bend in the shaft. That's called shaft loading. That means he's overpowering the shaft a little bit, which is obviously if the shaft was still on the same line, it would be closer to the golf ball, wouldn't it? So he may be overpowering the shaft. Plus, instead of sweeping from the inside, he's coming at it kind of vertically. So he's catching it out on the toe. He may want to go in and have a fitter check his shaft and make sure that the shaft fits his swing. Because other than that, it's a pretty good swing. It's unorthodox, but I think he's fighting the flex. Now, the way to get over that, I think, is at setup. We'll go back to the setup position. We've got to make sure that the club now sets up more with the ball on or near the shaft or the hosel. So even closer than that. So he has a better chance of hitting it on the sweet spot. It's very frustrating when you execute a good swing, but the tool doesn't help you. Have the tool checked. Now here we have a very good golfer who came to me because since he's moved down here from up north, he's feels like he's lost a lot of distance. Obviously, some of that is because you're now at sea level. Part of that's because our air is heavy, and some of it's because the ground we play on is a little softer, we don't get the roll. But I think we're going to see right away here, his loss of power comes from loss of lag or maintaining the hinge in the golf club to arm connection. So we're going to play this through it slow motion. We're going to see a very nice swing. Good stable upper body, head stays nice and still, obviously a very good golfer. Good hip rotation. Look at the hip movement there, beautiful. We'd like to see all of our golfers do that. And when you look at that, that looks like that should be a really good swing. Good finish, good balance, facing the target. Everything has moved up to that power line, which I'll draw in again in a second. So where did the power go? Well, let's back it up a little bit. We'll go back to the setup position. We'll go ahead and draw in our power line so you can see, because we've used this a lot. We don't get very many golfers that are set up like that on the power line. Now, we're going to start back. We've got a nice wide takeaway. You can see the width he's going to generate here. See, nice and wide, shoulders are turning. I'd like to see a little bit more of the right shoulder getting behind him here. Right now, it's mostly just arms taking it back. You get a little more width if you would turn his chest a little bit more with the golf club. So he gets back here to parallel. He's in a pretty good position. Again, needs a little bit more rotation. But he does finally rotate here. He's a late rotator. Now, let's take a look what we have here. What we have here is a very solid 90 degrees. That's his trail arm bent at 90 degrees at the elbow, the wrist bent at 90 degrees, and the club at 90 degrees. Maintains that angle. Still has a little bit of that angle. Still pretty close. Still not bad. I want you to notice something here that's very good for all of you golfers out there. The trail elbow is beneath the lead elbow. That's essential. But right about in here, he starts moving. He's going to go forward now. He'll start moving the wrong. Yep. See, he lost the angle. Notice we almost now have a straight line with the trail arm, forearm, and the golf club. At this point now, if he still maintained that 90 degree, that club would still be way back here. That's the leverage, it's called conservation of angular momentum, that allows us to generate the release of the golf club through impact that generates all the speed. So what's happening now is he's lost his mechanical advantage. It's almost completely gone now. Now it's straight with the trail arm. Now he's done a great job of loading up his body, moving into the shot. Great impact position right there. But unfortunately, his hands and his club are moving together, where if the club was back here at this point, imagine if he moved his hands just this far, and the club head had to move in this entire arc, how much faster it would be. There's where he's losing his speed and the look of effortless power. Great swing. We just need to get a little bit more relaxed forearm so we can maintain the lag and let the club head release on its own. What we're going to see with this golfer is something we see with a lot of amateur golfers, is very, very passive lower body. From the feet up, there's no power being generated in the golf swing. What I'm going to draw in is what I call the power line. This is the line that we want our right hip to move into, our trail hip to move into, so that we generate power. We're also going to pivot on that line on the way back. The other thing we're going to take a look at is, are we keeping our head still? So we'll put a little line on the head. Let's go ahead and play this forward in slow motion. We'll take a look at it. This is a face-on view. There we go. We got a takeaway. See, immediately lifting. Staying on the power line. Good. Look how far he's moved up and away. And then he's going to come back down, and then the lower body gets passive. Now you'll notice he rotated at the end, but let's take a look. Let's just go back to the impact position. Where at impact, you can see this is well after impact. The hands still aren't where they should be at impact. The hands should be on the blue line at impact, and the impact is going to happen just a little bit before this. Hard to get this moving that slow. So we need to get him to pivot around his left hip. Notice at this point right now, the zipper line of his sweatshirt is still straight down the middle of his body. It looks like he's still in his setup position. He hasn't rotated at all. What we need to do is get a sense that the trail knee moves to that knee, the trail hip moves to the blue line, and then finally, last, the shoulders rotate. Now what you're going to see here is the shoulders are going to rotate first. Now the shoulders are rotating, and then the hips start to go. The hip rotation has to lead the swing. We want to feel like we're thrusting our pelvis to the target.